I've always wondered, how is it that overconsumption and impulsive shopping have become such ingrained habits to so many people in our society? When and why exactly did we develop this habit of easily handing out our hard earned cash to buy junk that we don't really even like? In recent years, as I was saving up to leave my job and start my YouTube channel, I've trained myself to be very intentional and mindful about my shopping habits. On my journey, I found that these are 7 of the most helpful, mindful tips to help me buy less and save more. If I don't need it in the current week, I'm not buying it. This is one of my go-to tips whenever I'm hesitating about buying something. It applies to all sorts of household consumable goods, such as toilet paper, shampoo, etc., as well as things like food, books, and hobby items. Basically, if it's something that I don't see myself using this current week, then I'm not buying it. Nowadays, it's just so easy to purchase anything that you need, whether it's shopping on Amazon or just grabbing something quick at the drugstore down the street. There's a very low chance of you running out of anything. Even if it's something that you foresee using not this week but the following week, you can always go pick it up next weekend. On the other hand, if it's something that you don't urgently need to use this current week, there's a big chance that one, you don't actually need it at all, or two, you're going to buy it way in advance and just store it at your house. This has definitely happened to me and my family before, where we bought things like toothpaste, like 3 packs at a time, and just stored it in our bathroom for like 6 months or even a year. But doing that is absolutely unnecessary and can potentially lead to waste. Other examples of this would be things like purchasing books or courses that you imagine you'll read or take a couple weeks or a couple months down the line in the future. But in the end, you find out that you don't actually have the time to take those courses, or you're no longer interested in that book. If I don't have a place to put it, I'm not buying it. This one is a huge one for people like me who don't really have a huge home or a lot of storage spaces. This tip can apply to furnitures or any sort of bulkier items like exercise equipments, luggages, bags, kitchen or bathroom small appliances, or even clothes and shoes. Often when we're shopping for new items, we don't necessarily think about how we're bringing them home and where to put them in our house. And then when you bring them home, you realize that, oh, there's actually not a space to store these anywhere in your drawers, or there's not a space to put them on your floors. In our home, we only really have 2 closet spaces. Our bedroom closet is already stuffed with clothes and luggages that even if I just bring in one more like hat or bag, it's going to overflow. I also really like having space in my closet or storage spaces because it's easier to look for things or sort through things, or when you just open up a drawer, you don't feel overwhelmed. So before I purchase anything big, I always like to assess like what is my storage level right now and do I have any space to put this new item? Something else to think about is that larger, bulkier items like furniture can be very difficult to dispose of. At my parents' house, for example, they have a few pieces of furniture that nobody really like anymore or there's just no use for them. But because they can't dispose of them, they kind of just keep them in their house, cluttering up their space. If I don't really like it, then I'm not buying. Here, when I'm talking about liking something, I'm talking about both the function and the aesthetics of that item. When you use your hard-earned money to purchase something, you really want to make sure that that item is something you absolutely love 100%. Even if there's something small that you don't like about it, then maybe don't purchase it and wait for something better. But in reality, many of us make the mistake of purchasing something that we don't fully 100% like for random reasons like other people tell us it's great, we want to follow a certain trend, or we just urgently need something that we don't want to wait to look for better versions of. But the moment you bring the stuff home, they lose like 80% of the appeal. And if it's not something that pleases you 100% before, then you're just going to see it as junk when it gets to your home. On the other hand of this rule, if it's something that I really, really like, even if it's something that other people might see as useless, I will not hesitate to spend money to purchase it. Examples of this might be like my jewelry or my pink iMac. I tell myself that this item really has to bring me long-term joy and pleasure, and I wouldn't mind spending money on it. If I don't think I can use it for 10 years, then I'm not buying it. This tip mostly applies to non-consumable goods, so things like shoes, clothes, furniture, kitchen items, or electronics. For me, I'd feel comfortable spending money purchasing an item of high quality that can potentially last 10 more years or even ideally like the rest of my life. If you can just spend the money one time and derive immense benefits from that item for the rest of your life, then I think that's a really good deal. This obviously then rules out things that are super trendy, things that break easily, or things that just have very low quality. So sometimes we would shell out more money to purchase a more expensive item. An example of this would be our electric keyboard. When we were like selecting our models, we made sure to go for a very reputable brand and we didn't really care spending an extra 500 to 1000 on it because we know that this electric piano will ideally accompany us for the rest of our lives. If it's just something that's very trendy in the moment, or it might be replaced by future versions, then I would definitely reconsider before purchasing. If I don't have a habit of using it already, I'm not buying it. Okay, this rule I would say is one of the most important yet overlooked rule. A lot of times we purchase something because in our mind, our imaginary better versions of ourselves would use these things, but our current self actually doesn't have a habit of using these things already. So this applies to anything from like hobby items, musical instruments, sporting equipment to even like kitchen appliances, bathroom appliances, makeup. If you don't already have a habit of using something, chances are you won't develop a habit of using that thing. Once you bring that thing home, you might realize that it's a whole new activity that you just are too lazy to do. I've seen this so many times with kitchen appliances and sporting goods, and you definitely can think of examples as well. So now what I try to do is that if I'm starting something new, like a new hobby or a new activity in my life, I make sure I kind of develop that habit of doing that thing before purchasing any equipment for it. For example, with this YouTube channel, when I first started, I didn't think about buying new microphones or a new camera or anything. I just started shooting videos with my iPhone. It wasn't until a few months into it that I realized I will want to do this for the long term that I purchased myself a microphone. And to this day, I still don't have a camera outside of my iPhone. If it's the first time I thought about purchasing something, I'm not buying. Very often, our desires for things can be very random and impulsive. Suddenly, one day, we might really have this desire for something, then 2 days later, we might not even remember what we really wanted. We get influenced by people around us, the news, marketing, or just general trends and gimmicks, and they make us feel like the thing we need to buy is super urgent and important. Examples of this might be like new tech items or sporting equipment. Whenever this happens, my first reaction is always just to slow down and to give it some time. If it's the first time that I thought about purchasing something, then I'll be like, okay, I'll keep it on my mind. If the need comes up again and again, then I'll consider buying it. Otherwise, I'll just wait it out, and time will tell if this is a true need or simply a temporary desire. Ditching my cart at the point of purchase. This one is a little bit rebellious on my end. When it comes to online shopping, I have a habit of like staring at my cart and then closing down the window right away and going to do something else. I read somewhere that this is the action that all e-commerces hate the most is when their customers are ready to order and click that purchase button and then they ditch their cart. But for me as a consumer, I feel like this is a necessary step for me to protect my own wallet. I need to slow down again and again the process of shopping, and I need to give myself more time to reflect over whether or not I need this thing. For that same reason, I never have my card number like remembered by my browser so that every time I need to check out or purchase anything, I need to take out my card and enter in all the numbers. I think this is a great trick because when your checkout process is as gruesome as can be, then you are really going to think about whether or not you want to pay out your money. I've definitely had times where I ditched my Amazon cart and just closed down my browser and didn't come back for like a week or two later and was surprised that I had these things in my cart, which is evidence that I definitely didn't need those things. So that's it. These are 7 of my most helpful tips that I use all the time. Again, I'm not condemning shopping for things that you really need or like. Instead, I want to encourage people to make more intentional shopping choices so that in the end, we're not left with a bunch of junk cluttering up our houses and not enough money to spend on the truly important things in life. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a peaceful rest of the day. Bye.